Using Vanguard funds to generate guaranteed income in retirement. Man, that's what we're going to talk about here today. It's going to be probably a 2 or 3 part, maybe a 4 part. We'll see how it goes. I cannot wait to share this one with you. Using Vanguard funds to generate guaranteed income in retirement. Oh man, it's going to be awesome. So subscribe down below, and of course thumbs up and comments always help me as well. So man, let's stay tuned. Hop on, buckle your seatbelt, because I don't know what the net result is going to be. I've done some preliminary data gathering and data mining, used some Excel spreadsheets and whatnot, but I've got enough to lay the foundation, which is what we're going to talk about here. But then the end result, it'll be, I don't know what's going to be. It'll be interesting to find out, so stick with me. All right, so the premise is we're going to use VASGS. Oops, I almost fell. The Vanguard Life Strategy Growth Fund is our proxy, and that's always the proxy you should use if you have any kind of moderately aggressive portfolio. VASGX is about a 70-30 stock to bond mix. Only has 4 funds in there, my friends. It's got the Vanguard International Index Fund, Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund. It's got the Vanguard International Bond Index Fund and the Vanguard Total Bond Index. So it is, you cannot get any less glamorous than this guy right here. I think it's 11 bips, 11 basis points is the fee, so it's basically 1/10 of 1%. So I mean, it's absolutely the best fund you should use for your proxy. Should you invest in it? I don't know. Literally, I do not know. It's not a recommendation. I cannot stress enough, I do not make recommendations via YouTube for individual investing, because that'd be silly. I don't know your situation, but you know I like it. And that's what we're going to use for our proxy. So this fund was founded in September of 1994. It's averaged 7.85% a year since 1994. So if you've had this, you would have made double your money every, 7.5 years or so. All right, so if you had $100,000 in there, you can figure that out. You'd have, I don't know, off the top of my head, 500,000. I just don't know. 7.85% is what the average rate of return has been. But as you can see, we've had 23 years of performance. 1994 is only 3 months, so we don't use that. And then we're still in 2018, so we don't use that. So we've had 23 years of performance. And the red is what? Is the down, and the green is the up. So we've had 17 up years and 6 down years. So essentially we've had, 3 up for every 1 down. Wow, imagine that. So basically, if the market every 3 to 4 years, you're going to have a pretty significant drop off, that's for sure, and the Vanguard fund reflects that. So just keep that in mind. If you have a 4-year time horizon, there's probably 1 year when the markets fall, and fall substantially within those 4 years. What I love about this time frame, though, there's never been a better time to just do back testing on analysis or what you're going to do for the future. And the reason is because you have huge upsides, then you have huge downsides. All right, so remember, you take a $100,000 portfolio, if it drops 50%, all right, that's down to $50,000. $100,000 drops 50%, it's down to $50,000. What does it take for that $50,000 to get back to 100? It's 100% rate of return. So you just got to think about it like that. The losses hurt much more than the gains do, because you have to make up those losses to just get back to even. That's not even adding growth to your portfolio. So what I love about this time frame is basically 25 years, we have huge on the upside, which is then we got huge on the downside too, just starting out. So everyone's like starting out the gate, we got big returns, and then we reduce a lot of the returns right out of the gate. Now a lot of people say, look, this 8, 15, and 5, those aren't huge losses relative to the up cycle. Well, I just told you, a 50% up cycle or 50% decline needs a 100% increase to break even. So you got big returns on the front end. It doesn't take huge losses on the back to basically get that back to square one. So that's what I love about this market timing, market cycle, in terms of being able to do some comparisons and analysis. Then we have some really good years here, and then we have, of course, the bugaboo in 2008. And then we have, good returns, nothing wrong with these, but we still have some losses. So as you can see, not much in big losses for the last 10 years. We had a small down in 2011, a small down in 2015. But this is what makes this such a wonderful market cycle to do research on, because you got up, you got down, you got kind of good up, and then you got huge down, and then you got a nice little, just kind of like, not a dead cat bounce, but a significant bull market. What's the word? A moderate bull market going on 10 years now. And I think that's a wonderful position to look at for analysis. All right. So what are we going to do here? We're going to use this as our proxy. We know 7.85% is our annual return. It does not, this, my friends, doesn't matter. What your rate of return in any given, since inception, again, 1994, it means not a doggone thing if you're pulling money from the account. I cannot stress this enough. 7.85%, it doesn't matter because money is coming out of the account on an annual basis in retirement. So your rates of return when there's no money coming out, or in this case, no money going in, it's just you start with $100,000, what's it worth today? That's your return since inception. It's literally that simple. But when you're going into retirement, you're pulling money out. So this is absolutely meaningless. It's meaningless. I cannot stress this enough. Stop paying so much attention to rates of return since inception when it comes time to making withdrawals. All right? Now, that doesn't mean you don't look at it. I'm just saying, by all means, you certainly want to look at it to see how the management has done relative to the benchmark. But for you specifically, this is not your driving measure. I'm just telling you right now, it's not. Now, also on the other hand, it also doesn't affect your additionals money too. So we're not talking about people adding money. We're just talking about people withdrawing. But both sides of the equation. If you're adding money to it or if you're taking money out, this number is absolutely has nothing to do with it. It just does not. So just keep that in the back of your mind. All right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take the Vanguard Life Strategy Fund and we're going to start with $100,000. And every time we get a green, we're going to take the gains off the table and put it into an income annuity. Every year there is a green, we're going to take the gains off and put it into an income annuity. All right. Every year there's a red, we're not touching it. We're not going to do anything. So every year we have a green, we're going to take our gains and put it into an income annuity. Every year there's a red, we're not doing anything. And we're going to do that for the 23 years we have. That's the first premise. Part two is then we're going to take $100,000 into this fund and we're going to pull 5% a year off each and every year, 5% a year. And so we're going to see from an income perspective and an end of portfolio perspective what we're looking at. Now, I can tell you right now, it doesn't take rocket science to realize, if every year we're pulling off the amount that is worth more than $100,000, we're going back to $100,000, the net result of the first scenario will be $100,000. Why? Because every year, like in this case, we're up $29,000. We're going to pull $29,000 and we're back into $100,000. The following year, we're up $15,000. We're going to pull $15,000 and we're back to $100,000. So every year we do that, we're either going to be below if it's red or we're going to be at $100,000 for the first scenario. There's just no two ways around that. We know for a fact that the mutual fund will be worth $100,000 in scenario one or less, depending on what that year the market did. It's almost like we're creating our, I hate to say it, almost like we're creating our own bond, essentially. Because remember, a bond, you start with $100,000, you get 5% a year in income, a coupon, you get $5,000 a year of income, so you end with $100,000. But the nice thing about this, though, is that a bond, you're losing rapidly as inflation. So it's like a step ladder, stair step going down. $5,000 buys $5,000 today. It buys $4,800 the next year, $4,600 because inflation each and every year is eating away at that. Well, the converse is happening here. We're essentially creating our own inflation-adjusted bond. Start with $100,000, end with $100,000. What is the income we're getting in between is variable, and that's the nice thing about a bond. You know for a fact you will get that $5,000. Here, we don't know. In fact, some years we might not get anything relative to what we had before. Now, with part one still, what we're going to do, we're going to say, okay, so we have $29,000. We're going to take an income annuity, and we're going to pay it as a payout ratio of 5%. So a couple things going on here. The older you get, the higher the payout ratio will be. All right, so we're going to use 5% just flat. So let me just give you an example. We got $29,000 here, and that would pay us. So again, we start with $100,000. We got $29,000 as our gain. And that will pay us as a 5% payout ratio, $1,450 a year. So we divide that by 12. So every month we're going to get $120 for the rest of our lives off this guy right here. We know that for a fact. Every month for the rest of our lives we're going to get $120.83 a month. The following year it will be less. The following year will be less. But we add those income distributions up each and every year because that $120 for the rest of our life. Let's say this is $80, that's for the rest of our lives. So you take those two together and we're getting $200 a month by annuitizing the gains. Now we come down to red, we're only getting these. And I'll show you when we do the example here in just a second. So that's part one. Now, if you're 60 to 65 or so and you're married filing jointly, your initial payout rate will probably be 4.5%, I think, if you're going to do a 100% joint and life survivor annuity. Probably about 100%, probably about 4.5%, maybe 5%. So we might be a little bit on the high on the front end, really depends on your age. And it still might be a little bit low too, I just don't know. But I'm just going to use a 5% flat payout rate. But remember, now if we're 60 here and we're, what's that, 80 here, the payout rate certainly isn't 5%. Now it's 5.5 to 6. So we're just going to use a 5%. And I don't think anyone should have an issue with that. Like, oh, you're cherry picking. Literally, I don't know what the answer is going to look like. I don't know. So I just want to use that flat 5% payout rate. It might not look good. It might look good. I don't know. What else was I going to say on that? So, then we're going to add all those payments each and every year. All right, so that's how that's going to work. And just remember, on an income annuity, once you do it, you can't undo it. You have a 30 to 45 day free look period, and then it's irrevocable. Once you do it, you cannot, it's an irrevocable contract. I think USAA offered you had a couple times where you could take a portion out for an emergency. I don't know the liquidity ability on income annuities anymore. If I'm looking at you thinking about this for your own strategy, I would go in there assuming that you can't get it, you can't irrevoke it, or revoke it, I should say. It's irrevocable. If I were you, I'd go in there assuming it can't be touched in the future. And the reason for that is because the more liquidity they allow you to have on the income annuity, the less restraints essentially on you getting your principal, the less of an income stream they're going to pay you. And that defeats the purpose. We want this guaranteed income for the rest of our lives. And so we want to make sure that we don't have a lot of liberal opportunities to access it. We want to be very, very straight. It's very illiquid at that point. So you got to keep that in mind, though. The minute you annuitize that $29,000 here, you cannot not do it. What we're going to assume here. All right. And so, secondly, just revisit. We're going to do $100,000. And we're just going to do an old-fashioned 5% each and every year and take it out and see what we're looking at. We're not going to include taxes here. Don't care about that at this stage. Obviously, taxes do it means something. Here, though, I'm just looking at the gross income we can generate from both the portfolios and how much will be left in the residual portfolios after we die here, was at 23 years hence. My inclination is that the first portfolio will have $100,000. In fact, I can almost guarantee you that. My second portfolio, it will probably be worth more, simply because we have 17 up years and we only have 6 down. And so my inclination is that the second portfolio, we're just pulling 5% a year, each and every year, is going to have more of a residual value because we're allowing some of the assets to accumulate and to compound. All right. So my inclination is that's going to be the case, but I just don't know. We shall see, and that will be the interesting thing. So if I was a betting man, I would say we have $100,000 guaranteed in portfolio 1, and we have something in portfolio 2, but I bet it'd be worth more than $100,000. In fact, I would be stunned if it weren't. But how much income was portfolio 1 generating to portfolio 2? And literally, I have no idea. So we're going to dive into this. All right. So stay tuned. We'll put part 2 up on the board here, and I think you'll like this. So let's see what we find out. Thanks, guys. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, guys.